It's Don, the Auction Professor. Today I wanted to talk about scams in general on eBay. I've had a lot of questions. A lot of people worry about it. I've heard tons of stories in my time. I've been scammed. And this is part of the reason why I talk about feedback meaning so much to your sales. Everybody has been scammed at least some point. At least most people have been on any length of time. We personally buy and sell off of eBay. We buy personal items for our kids, Christmas items, birthday items, just clothing or glasses or household items, not just necessarily off of eBay, but also off of Amazon. We ordered 2 or 3 years ago a PlayStation, a new one for our kids, and what we ended up getting was a used box of a PlayStation with a brick in it. Literally, that's what we received. Obviously, eBay fixed the issues, and they fixed them really quickly with what we got. Now, they have the guarantee for buyers, of course. It's a little different for sellers. You are always susceptible to one of these types of scams. You just have to be cautious. I've shown you some of the settings, and I'm going to include the link up here right now to another video where I talk about things you can do to block certain types of bidders. That is your best way to stop some of that. You're never going to stop it all. If you have questions on certain countries and certain things like that, you're going to have to look into that as well, too, on where it's safe to ship. Now, I've listed those as well in other videos, and I believe the video I just talked about does include some of the shipping to certain specific countries overseas. For the most part, most countries I ship to are shipped through the global shipping program. I do ship to Canada, England, France, Germany, Japan, and Australia, straight to those countries, because tracking goes from our location straight to their door with no problem whatsoever. I've never had any issues. I've talked about this before. I had one issue to Germany that wasn't necessarily an issue, but they held up an item in customs for several weeks. No big deal. It was solved and it went through, and boom, the person got the item. But with a lot of the things, it's very cautious to sell to some countries. Again, you can block certain items. I would never send anything other than a collectible overseas. I would never send high-end electronics. I'll just throw you out a couple stories. There's a business out here which I've bought things from. Somebody we know works with them. He used to do eBay very exclusively, as well as his business. He sold thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. He's an electronics store. He does a lot of repaired and just older items and newer items and stuff, used mostly. And he sent an item, a stereo that was worth over $3,000 to a foreign country. And the gentleman was supposed to send it back, and the same story happened. He got bricks in the mail. Now, this is a big thing. They'll try and get it to match the weight, so they can say, hey, look, the weight matches. I don't know where it happened. It could have happened in the mail. There's not a lot of things you can do about that other than not sell those type of items out of the country. If you send them through global shipping, it only covers part of the cost on those, and it's a smaller value. It's well under, $1,000 what they cover, just a couple $100 if I remember right. So you've got to be careful on that. And the other thing that I would say is, when you're selling items, ship them out right away. Do not wait and sit them around the house or anything. Send them out as soon as you possibly can. And the other thing that you never ever want to do is spend the money until the item has been accepted, it's delivered, you don't have any questions. Wait a couple days and see what happens. I always say ship immediately and hang on to the money, especially when you're new. Now, like for us, I don't worry about any specific money because we've got a bank account that covers that, which is what you need to do. Get yourself a separate bank account just for your eBay stuff, and then transfer everything that goes into any businesses you have into that one account as a business account, and then have a personal account as well, where you can disperse payments or your pay or the money that you take out from there, so you can track it all. In that way, you have money left in the account for your taxes, and which most people don't seem to realize at the end of the year you have to pay taxes. Taxes, of course, and then to cover the item in case there is, let's say, a chargeback. Now, with the chargeback, there isn't much you can do, whether it's a fraud or not, because most always they side with the charge card company. Even if you can prove that the item was delivered, I've seen a ton of different reasons why they got away with it. They didn't order the item, they don't know how it got shipped. Their kid must have done it and it didn't show up even though it says delivered. Somebody must have stole it from their porch. or they can claim that it wasn't the correct item. Now, I've heard people say, do a video of it. The video isn't going to prove anything because they cannot, and I'll tell you that's true, because they can't count from where it came from to the time you opened up the box. You could have just taped it shut again, put something else in there, and it opened up the video. The only way you could get away with saying that it wasn't done that way is to film it at the post office or film it in front of the postal clerk, and chances are you're not going to get a postal clerk that's going to sit there, or your mailman that's going to sit there while you open it and film it, and then have them go to court or file a statement. That's above and beyond their duty. It's just not going to happen for the most part. If it's a high dollar item, maybe you can bug the postmaster in your area to let you come in there and film you opening it to make sure you can see what it is. But you won't know if it's going to be junk or an actual return the right item. So all around there's not a lot you can do. But as I said, watch the video that I just talked about. I do have some things you can do to block certain people and certain avenues of this, but it's across the board, and this is why feedback's so important for you as a seller. To keep it up, because more people are going to buy from you. They'll buy from you over other people with less feedback or issues saying an item didn't arrive, it wasn't correct, sent the wrong item. All those things are going to hurt you when it comes down to it. I know people constantly tell me it's not the case. They sell items all the time. Yeah, but it's the value you sell them at. I sell things for more than most people do, the type of items we do, across the board. And I really take that down to how we handle our business, including how we handle returns when we get them, which are extremely rare, and how we handle in the shipping and how correct we are with everything. Our feedback demonstrates that we handle our business correctly. We went overboard to try and get the feedback for everything in every country on the planet, which we do, and that is a good thing. You have to sell so many items to get globally wise, but we're at that point. We've been at that point. So we strive to always get the best feedback, so people come to us instead of taking chances with other people. They're trusting a lot of their money into this. I know eBay has buyer protection. They do cover sellers in some cases, and I know people said that eBay went ahead and paid them out of courtesy. There's no proof when you get an item that's not correct on who actually did the issue. And I know most people say that's not true. You can prove it. It went through the post office. Somebody could open in the post office. That's the standpoint. Or you could be lying to them, even if, there's no way on earth that that's the case in your mind. To eBay, you're just two people. There's no proof on anything. Even if one person has a couple feedback and you have 10,000, there's no proof that you or the other person did or didn't do anything. There's no witnesses. It's your word against their word. That is the plain and simple answer to that. They have to take things from a legal standpoint. And I know this isn't good for a lot of people. No, they'll be, thinking that's not true, that's not right. There's a legality. You can't accuse somebody in an open court of anything. Well, you can accuse them, I should say, but you can't convict somebody without proof. And if there's two witnesses, one on either side, they balance each other out. You can look at some other aspects of it, but at the end of the day, eBay has to side take care of the situation the best way they can. But they have a buyer protection, I know. They do have a seller protection to some extent. The courtesy refunds that they give, when that happens, let's say, here's an example, I was scammed on something, somebody sent something, it was damaged by them, they returned it, and then it wasn't sellable by me. So at this point, I'm pretty much out the item. I had to refund them. I complained. I filed a case with eBay. To no avail. They closed it in the other person's behalf. I went in ahead and called them back, had it reopened. End of the day is I threw up a fit. I knew I was in the right. eBay said out of courtesy, because of how much I've done on there and how long I've been on, they're going to go ahead and do it for me this time and refund it. But they also let the other person who scammed me keep the money. That is a standard practice. I've been able to get that twice now out of the 2 times that I've been scammed in that type of form. Now, very rarely am I scammed any other way. One time I had somebody return an item that they opened. It was a lot of a bunch of like hinges, I think they were. And, I didn't even file on that. It just wasn't worth it. I know technically it wasn't in the same condition, but it was like a lot of 12 of these. And they opened one of them. So, I wasn't going to worry about it. It didn't really hurt the resale value on it. So, but there's a ton of scams out there. The biggest one, as I said, is people switching stuff and returning a different item, and then claiming, that they didn't do that. That's you. You're trying to scam them again. You can't do much about it. You can't refuse to sell something, especially to somebody in your own country. If you do that and you cancel the order because of doubts, you're opening yourself up for, negative feedback, and they can just say you canceled it for no reason. You can block people if they've had a couple strikes. That's the best way to do it. And there's other options. You can block them if they have negative feedback and things like that. That's really all you can do. And I say this many times, it's cost of doing business. You just have to take it in at some point. There is nothing you can do. And if that's going to upset you to the point where you say it's eBay's fault and you're going to drop off eBay, you're just not going to probably make it anyway with that mentality on it. You've got to take it from a legal standpoint. And, how's eBay going to know who did the issue? They just can't tell. Even if you've been on for a while. I've been scammed. The person who sent us the brick for the PlayStation was on. They had 1,100 feedbacks. Before Christmas, they ended up selling, hundreds of items that they didn't have, where they got boxes from garbages or dumpsters or whatever the case may be, and they sold a whole bunch of these that way. And the negatives piled up and piled up and piled up, so, and this person, as I said, had a lot of feedback and nothing before this, so you never know what's going on. I know chances are someone with that much feedback isn't going to be bad, but you never know. There's no way to tell whatsoever. And eBay looks at it from a court of law. Is this going to fly in court if they side with one? Let's say eBay forces the person to, keep a bad item, or let's say eBay says they're not going to refund the buyer for an item and they're going to side with you. This person could have a recourse. They don't know what happened. They haven't seen it. There was no, chain of custody that could be verified. Chain of custody meaning the minute you turn it over to the post office, it's tracked. Or let's say from the minute you pack it, more like, to the minute it arrives at the person's house, somebody watched it under camera the entire time. That's the only way you can get a chain of custody to be a legal standpoint. Or it goes into an officer of the law, he keeps it in his possession, and then the person who delivers it. There's just no other way to verify it in a court of law. Even when a package is stated delivered, which you're free and clear. Let's say a package states it was delivered on eBay. Once it is marked as delivered, even if it doesn't show up or it's lost or stolen off the buyer's porch, you are not liable for it. It is the post office's fault at that point. They are liable for it. So if that ever happens to you as well, you'd call eBay if they leave you negative feedback, and it will be removed. If they open a case, item not received, and it shows it was delivered, eBay will close that case and block them from leaving feedback. Good, bad, or indifferent. I've had things stolen from our porch once or twice before. Nowadays, things are picked up, so I always know what's coming and going every day of the week. I check on tracking for every single item. If a seller doesn't put it up, mostly Christmas stuff is what I buy offline. Birthday stuff, electronics, personal items, shoes, dishes, things like that we actually use. And I ask for tracking and everything. If they don't put a tracking number on the listing, I always ask for it. I bug them until I get it if that's what it takes. It should be a common courtesy thing to do it. And for us, I put tracking on every single item. I don't send even a couple dollar items out. Even a $2 postcard won't go out without tracking. Everything is tracked. That is your safety net for the most part. And you let them know this. If you let them know too, and I know people say don't do that, you're going to lose sales. Well, it's a big help for us because not only do we not lose sales when we include tracking and only ship first class with tracking, it also deters people from trying to scam you because they know you track and pay attention to everything, especially if they're looking at the higher feedback. It's still going to happen to some folks. If you're new, they're going to try and pull a fast one. Don't ship to countries you don't want to ship to. Let's say in your listing it says you don't ship to a certain country and someone buys or bids on that item, somehow it got through, or you made a statement about this. Those kind of things you can cancel, especially if you have some doubt in it. Though you're pretty safe as long as you have stated in the listing that you don't ship to that country. And eBay has backed people up on those many, many times. I have not heard anyone of losing a case such as that. But again, you're going to have to deal with some scams on you. There's just no way around it. Every business on this planet has scammers. Gas stations, grocery stores even have scammers. Even thrift stores have scammers where people rip off labels and put different labels on them. all the time. I see it in flea markets. Antique malls have scammers that'll come in there and scam the store, and there'll be actually dealers who will scam you, knowingly sell you something that's been repaired that they don't state, or that's a fake item that they're selling as a real item. This stuff happens all the time. You just got to be ready for it. Don't spend the money until you're sure it's a cleared sale. If it says it was delivered, I wouldn't go back though and ask them, please leave feedback. You might just ask them to make sure everything was okay. I just wanted to make sure you were happy, but never ask for them to do anything. That would be their call. Don't ask them. Sometimes when you ask somebody, they will leave you negative for bugging them on it. It's semi-risky too sometimes, emailing and then asking if everything is okay. Just want to be helpful. I usually just word it very nice and sweetly. I've got dummy letters that I already have made up for all kinds of options that I can just cut and paste and send out. I've come up with ones. There's no sense in using, different ones. You can set yourself up a file of emails to send out for these issues for every aspect of it. I got about a dozen emails that I send out to people. That's going to be another thing that's going to be included in my Patreon. I'm going to have dummy emails you can send out, save you some time and things like that as well too. But again, that's going to be on Patreon. But literally, just take it easy. Be careful with things. Don't spend the money until you know it's clear. Usually a week after that, you're pretty clear if you haven't heard anything that says it was delivered. Again, no one has to leave feedback, so don't expect that every time. You got to hold some business restraint here, and don't take any of these personal when somebody scams you. They're not scamming you, they're scamming your business. And that's where a lot of people have a big issue with it. I hear people going off. I've seen videos of people yelling at eBay because they didn't get what a returned item that they were supposed to get. They got scammed. It was a brick or something. There's tons of videos up there. Don't get me wrong. I know it happens. It's happened to us personally, on occasion here, for something for my kids. And it arrived too short to actually get a new one off of eBay. We had to go out and purchase one for a lot more locally because of that scam. Nowadays we order 6 months in advance, depending on if the ability is there. But again, just be cautious on it. You have to be able to accept some of these scams and not yell and take it, blow up on the issue. I know it's a lot of money sometimes because we have been scammed. Way back in the past we've lost some money, but not recently. eBay has been very good on the 2 incidents where we lost. One was $334. That was the item that they actually physically ruined and then sent a damaged item back. And again, it wasn't in the condition that I sent it. So if somebody returns something and they're trying to scam you, if it wasn't in the same condition that they sent it to you in, your best bet is to try to get them to admit that in an email. Don't come out and try and tell them that you want to admit it. Just say, hey, what's going on? I only see this, or the package was opened. Get them to say something before you file with eBay. The minute they said they opened it, I'm sorry, or they said, yeah, I accidentally, or whatever the case they did, you're covered with eBay. That way, it's going to be cited in your behalf if an email states they did anything to the item above and beyond what it was originally sent to you as. Now, if they don't admit it and you can't get them to admit it, don't go off on them. It's not going to save you in anything. You can argue with eBay, and as I said, in some cases, if it's only happened to you once, maybe twice, in these cases, they will give you a courtesy refund if you throw a big enough fit. The other person who scammed you is still going to get to keep the money, though. So I can't guarantee they're going to do it in every case, but you can find videos. You'll see many that they've gotten this courtesy refund. I've gotten it twice. The second time they said we can't do that, and I literally reiterated, yes, you can, because last year you did it, and you told me how you could do it, so I know you can do it. The policy has not changed. I was a stickler because I knew what was going on. You have to understand that they can do this and that they offer courtesy ones sometimes. I can't say they'll do it for everyone. We have been on for a long time. We do sell a lot. I do only talk to anchor store and higher up levels. So I do talk to people, and I do talk to the same person many times over, just because apparently it's not a huge department. I may take twice as long to actually be able to talk to somebody on the phone than somebody else who's getting overseas call centers, but at least I know it's going to be solved for the most part. There's been very few cases where eBay hasn't done the right thing, but again, they do the wrong thing. Even for me, I do have some complaints about their things on this, but again, I see it from a business aspect because I ran businesses as a regional and as a general manager, and I was scammed on a daily basis. I was scammed with alcohol issues, Vendors would scam you. Produce vendors were a big one. They'd send you old produce and try and get somebody who was there not to realize it. Or they'll pack bad produce on the bottom of a box and put nice looking produce or tomatoes or whatever it is on top of the box, get you to sign it, and they've just been able to get rid of some merchandise that they wouldn't have been able to have. So I always look through all that stuff. When you get something delivered, check it immediately and file it immediately. Don't let it wait. Don't let it sit there. Don't give them any benefit to say, hey, you know, he waited, he had it for a while, he must have broken it. Don't make up those excuses. Do it right away. So, you know, the only way to protect yourself is to be diligent and safe. And again, you can't protect yourself from everyone. So, you know, this is just a caution. It's more important right now that you're diligent and you're checking everything out ahead of time. If, let's say, somebody did scam you and eBay's trying to side with you, before you call eBay, look at that buyer's feedback. Look at what he's left for others. Look what people have left for him. Both of those. Go as far back as you can. Copy some screenshots of the ones if there's a ton of them. Sometimes when you can find that the person has 20 or 30 feedbacks left at them, you know, for something they have done, and it's the exact same thing that you did, that happened to you, you can fight eBay with those. And I have seen, and I have won a couple of years back cases just like that because of me being diligent and going back and being able to prove, hey, this person's lying, look at their feedback. There's dozens of people that say that. So, but have that in before you call eBay. Have everything you can possibly get. And again, if the person sends you the wrong item, nicely ask them, hey, you know, hey, just curious, you know, I figure I had a laugh out of this. Maybe you accidentally put the wrong package out, you know, what's going on? Can you just give me an update? Just something really kind and courteous. Make it a joke and see if you can get them to admit something. You have to get them to admit something to be 100% safe. The minute they say they did something, that is your proof, and eBay is going to close it in your behalf. That's what happened to us. That's what's happened to many friends and many people that I know. But again, you've got to get them to say something. Don't try to piss them off. Be nice and courteous, even if they come back and say, well, I don't know what you're talking about, and then send a picture in that email of what you got, you know, and say, you know, you've already talked to the post office. The post was actually tracked. You know, it's been under camera. You've been able to view the thing they say. They know what's happened. They know it hasn't stopped anywhere. So get them to say something. That's what you need. But that's what I have for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully that gave you some real good ideas on what to do. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified when we post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.